Sir Keir Starmer reshuffled his shadow cabinet. Now, I'm not saying this is a case of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic, but the question is, what difference is this going to make? When Starmer did a reshuffle in 2021, his deputy leader, Angela Rayner, didn't seem to have been told that it was happening. At least this time she knew what was going on. She's the new shadow levelling up secretary, but there is also quite another interesting angle to this, and to dissect all of this is John Mcternan, who's a former advisor to Tony Blair. And John, I'm quite surprised you're not in the shadow cabinet, because it does appear that there are quite a few former advisors to Tony Blair who are.
Yeah, look, had they phoned up and said, we'd like to put you in the House of Lords and then into the shadow cabinet, I would have had to say yes to.
Would you? And what about the £350 a day, John, would have made you say yes to that?
I don't know, and the fantastic dining, fantastic dining room as well. No, look, there is a return of Blair, right? So there's three people actually now in the shadow cabinet who were in cabinet with Blair and with Brown, Yvette Cooper, Ed Miliband, and Hilary Benn. There's half a dozen people who were advisors in the Blair Brown governments, and I think it's an acknowledgement that if you're going into government, you do need people who've had experience of being in government, making decisions. You know, a generous interpretation of Gillian Keegan's anger this morning, misguided in my view, but would be that governing is hard. And you actually do need people who've got experience of governing. And one of the problems with the current government is they keep on turning over the people in the top jobs. So they're hardly there for 2 minutes. I mean, we however many education sectors we've had since 1994, we've had 5 or 6 since like 2019, haven't we? So something about bringing experience. And I think Keir's rewarded talent. Okay. He promoted Liz Kendall, and he's promoted other people. So
can I ask you about something? Because I think with Keir Starmer, look, I can see the logic behind what he's doing here, bringing in a few people who are deemed to have had experience and will be the closest thing to household names as you can possibly get in the Labour Party at the minute. But there's a question of believability about some of the things that he says. So his other big thing today, actually, which flew under the radar, was he said, I will not increase income tax. I will not increase income tax. And for a lot of people who are in the higher tax bracket, that, especially for them, I think was a concern. By the way, now loads of people are in the higher tax bracket. It is no longer a rich man's game being in the higher tax bracket. But I'm just having a look at some of the promises or the pledges that he's rode back on, right? So, you know, you're looking at his thing about public services, name-checking rail, mail, energy and water into common ownership, but he's rolled back on that. Also, the green investment, the big green stuff, he's rolled back on that. Also, having a look here as well about education. He's saying that ambitious childcare plans. Then, of course, we had the child benefit cap to stay. There's a bit about workers' rights as well that he's rolled back on. So when he says, don't worry, vote for me, I won't hike your taxes, can we believe him?
All that Keir is doing now is preparing for the next 12, 15 months, preparing for government. And one of the things you have to do when you're preparing for government is make sure that what you are promising can be turned into a programme. So nobody can spend £28 billion or invest £28 billion on a new industrial strategy to decarbonise the economy. You can't do it in the first year. You need to start in the first year, start building up in the second year, and by the third year, you've got it fully running. So a lot of the things that Keir is now saying are practical adjustments to the reality of being in government. In opposition, you can campaign, have slogans. In government, you actually have to have a programme and gradually introduce it. I think one of the things I say about the one of the promises you didn't talk about, he said that Labour are going to back the builders, not the blockers. And he's really clear, we're going to build on the green belt, not the green belt, but the brownish, tarmacy, shabby bits of the green belt with the stations. And I think that's why Angie Rayner's been moved. She's been moved for 2 reasons. One is she needed a big job to match her big position, her big talent. And the other one was a scrapper, a fighter in the area of housing, of planning, of inequality, of devolution. Yeah. I think Michael Gove got a shock when he goes to Question Time in the same way that Boris Johnson used to get a shock whenever Angie turned up.